Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be reviewing this album. It is Our Favourite Shop by the Style Council. So what I'm going to do in this video is give a bit of background information about the album, then I will show you my vinyl copy of it, and then go over each of the album songs in detail. So yeah, this was the group's second album, released on the 9th of May in 1985. By this point in Paul Weller's career, he'd found commercial success with his new group. Their singles consistently reached the UK top 10. However, their debut album Cafe Blue had kind of confused people with its very sort of jazzy flavours, lots of instrumentals, and also a lot of guest vocalists as well. But they continued to release music throughout 1984, and also at the same time Weller was becoming a lot more politically active, and releasing the single Soul Deep, under the name The Council Collective, to aid the striking miners. So yeah, for the new material what he was working on, it takes a very political, very a lot more sort of topical themes all expressed on this album compared with the debut. Some people have called this sort of a concept album about sort of rising up against the establishment. So when it was released, it was received favourably by critics at the time, and was a UK #1 album. I believe it displaced Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms from the top spot. However, it was released in a different format. In the US, the album was called Internationalists. However, it made no impact on the charts there, despite Weller enjoying a top 20 hit with My Ever Changing Moods fairly recently. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you my vinyl copy of the album here. I'll just start with the album cover, which I absolutely love. If I was scoring the artwork Rockboy680 does, this would definitely get a 10 out of 10. It's just a brilliant cover, just sort of Weller and Talbot in the shop, full off their favourite things, Our Favourite Shop. Yeah, it's great. Inside here looks like this. We've got sort of liner notes, and then the track listing, and then a nice picture there. And then on the inside here, just sort of comes out from the inside out there. And then we get a lyric inner sleeve. This isn't in brilliant condition, this copy of it here. Basically I just bought this album on a whim, not really expecting much of it. A very, very cheap copy here. And yeah, condition of the vinyl isn't great. Mine jumps about a little bit. So definitely if this album gets reissued, then this is one I will definitely pick up as soon as I can. If they reissue it though, hopefully they will one day. Okay, so I'm now going to go over each of the album songs. I will score each song out of 10, and then those scores will be used to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. And I've tried on my own. Okay, so we open up with the song Homebreakers, which is a really interesting way to start the album, with Mick Talbot lead vocal. In this song, the lyrics are written by Paul Weller, after Talbot told him about his family's experience. It tells the story of a family sort of being torn apart, the children having to move away to sort of find work and that. I think that it is a real great song. Lyrics really great. I think Talbot sings very, very well. Actually, that guy also has some brilliant guitar playing towards the end. Maybe goes on a little bit too long, this song here. Maybe could have shaved a little bit off the ending, but doesn't really matter though, because I still think it is a brilliant fantastic song. Homebreakers, a 10 out of 10. Like everything else is all gone away. And then the album takes a slightly softer turn now for All Gone Away, which is a much sort of slower, sort of bossa nova style number. In this song, Weller laments the loss of high streets and and community spirit. Lyrics on this one still quite relevant today, with the recent demise of British home stores and that, the middle of it and somewhere the party never ends, and greedy hands work together again, shipping out the profits that they've stolen. It's very strong lyrically in this song here, how it juxtapositions sort of the calm soft delivery with a very sort of biting sort of bitter angry lyric. So yeah, I think it is a brilliant track, All Gone Away. Next song up is called Come to Milton Keynes, and like this one, like I've got like the 7-inch single here. I think like on like the surface, this is like sort of like a great like little pop song really. But like lyrically, like it deals with sort of like new towns, like what were like built and like developed, like in order like to combat like sort of like the social issues like of like the larger cities. Like, however, like the new towns like weren't like as good as like people like thought like they were like in like the adverts and that, like as like the social problems just like ended up like transferring like to them. Like this was like a single like release like from the album. I think like the second like or third single from it, and like was actually like Style Council's first single what failed to reach like the UK top 20. Like Weller got into like a bit of like bother with this single because people thought like, hang on, like he's criticising like this town where like he's never been, but like his hometown like Woking like suffers from like very much like the same sort of issues. But yeah, still like a good single though, like nonetheless. Really like the song. And this is like the packaging here, just sort of comes like in like a wee like in a sleeve here, and like on the B-side to this we get a song called When You Call Me, which is a really great tune there. So yeah, that's Come to Milton Keynes, which I would give a 10 out of 10 to. Take this knowledge and with it insist, declare yourself. Okay, next up on the album is called Internationalists, which I'm giving a 7 out of 10 to. This isn't one of my favourites, like, on the album. Like, it's a bit more sort of perky, more sort of like funky number. Like, I do quite like the pace of the song. Like, lyrically, like, it's sort of like a call to arms, sort of like about like, rising up and like whatnot and that. But for me, just something like about the track doesn't work. Like it's maybe like a little bit sort of like slightly dated like production, very sort of like layered, and that like the organ on it sounds very 80s. Like I like lyrically, like it's a little bit preachy like compared to some of like the others like songs like on the album. But it's still not a bad track though, Internationalists. With loving, with caring. And then the album takes another kind of like softer turn with A Stone's Throw Away, which I'm giving a 9 out of 10. So this is a much sort of slower track, like very beautiful, like Eleanor Rigby-esque like string quartet like backing up Weller on this song, like very much like a lyric like about like police brutality and like that sort of thing, and like maybe like lyrically gets like a bit much like towards the end, sort of like comparing like the plight of like those like in Chile and like South Africa to like the miners' strike and that. But I think it is effective like at like getting that Weller's position and like his point across. So yeah, not a bad track there, A Stone's Throw Away.
Now listen, get them laughing, keep them there, you hold your own.
And then we get a song which a lot of people say is kind of fillery, like on the album. It's called The Stand-Up Comics Instructions, and like this is like a short piece, like only about like 1 minute 30 seconds. Like it's narrated by like comedian Lenny Henry, sort of like supposed to be sort of like giving like instructions like to like a comedian, saying like what jokes to tell and like whatnot. Like it's kind of like aimed like at like comedians like who like sort of like make fun of like disadvantaged like minorities and that, like the like kind of like the irony with this one like being that like Lenny Henry like himself like is black as well. So yeah, like a good idea like for like a song, but it could have been like executed like a little bit better, like I think. Fortunately though, it passes very quickly, like it's only about a minute, like just over like a minute, so like it doesn't really do too much like to hurt the album. Like, and I think like it's telling like as well that like this was deleted from like most international pressings like off like the album. That it seems I need you more each day. And then to close side one, we get like a bit more of like a conventional sort of soulful ballad like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, which I'm giving a 10 out of 10 to. I really love this song. Like as I said, like a lot sort of slower, like sort of like about like the end of like a relationship. Like I do really like this track a lot. Like backing singer Tracy like is like back like with like Weller like on this song that she sang on, I think it's Speak Like a Child and that. And like it features some brilliant guitar playing like as well. Like I love like the tune of this, like and like lyrically like it's like great as well. So yeah, a brilliant track here, like one of like the non-UK singles from the album. Like I believe like they released Come to Milton Keynes like in like the UK, but like everywhere else like around the world got The Boy Who Cried Wolf, which is probably a slightly better song, like I have to say. Okay, so flipping over to side 2 of the album, we get opening up one of my favourite Paul Weller songs, like one of like, the best songs like I think that he's done, A Man of Great Promise. This one lyrically deals with like the death of like one of Weller's school friends, like a guy called Dave Waller, who died in 1982, like off like a heroin like overdose. Musically, like it is quite upbeat and that, which somewhat like disguises like the message like off like the lyrics, which I think are like some of like Weller's like most affecting. Like I probably personally do prefer like the like sort of like acoustic versions, like what he's done like in like the 90s, again like the early 2000s, like live in concert. I just think that like those versions like capture like the message of the song like a little bit better, but it's still fantastic though. Brilliant like lyric though, brilliant song as well. Just like in general, yeah, a fantastic track. A Man of Great Promise. And then following that up, we get Down in the Sign, which I really love as well. I'm also like European sort of French like flavoured song here. Like musically, like it has got like a lot of like tension and like anger sort of like bubbling like under like the surface, but like it never like allows it like to dominate. Like I've heard like some people sort of like describe this as like a love song like almost, but I really like don't hear that. I really get through sort of like a very sort of like despairing sort of like hopelessness sort of like in like the lyric, and that very sort of self-doubting and like kind of sort of like reaching out for help and that, like I think. But yeah, a fantastic song. Like I think like musically it is just brilliant. Like maybe like I can do without like the French like lyrics like in like the chorus like off of the song, but they certainly do really fit like the music quite well, I think. And yeah, like this is like one of the songs I like really wait for hearing like on the album. So now the next song on the album is called The Lodgers, which I think this has like a sort of like a subtitle like All She Was a Shopkeeper's Daughter. Like again, like we're back to like the politics, like with this one here, like sort of like a attack, like say like sort of like a response to sort of like Margaret Thatcher's like Tory government, like off at the time, like well like duets on this song like with DC Lee, like who like isn't too involved like with this album. Like this is like the only song that she like really like sings on. Like however like she would become like a lot more like involved like with both the group like and like in like Paul Weller's like personal life. This was the third single from the album, and like it done okay, reaching number 13 on the UK singles chart. So yeah, like I do quite like The Lodgers. It's a very sort of funky song. Like I do quite like it a lot. Then the next one is called Luck, which again I do really enjoy. Like it's a slight sort of deviation like from like the politics, like again like just sort of like a summery like upbeat like love song like about sort of like finding like a sudden burst of like inspiration. Like yeah, like I do quite enjoy this one like a lot. Like it isn't like anything like too special, but it is a really great song though. Qualified and patronized and with everything to lose. Okay, so now we move on to the song With Everything to Lose, which this song like has like a really sort of like interesting like backstory. Like Paul Weller like wrote the song Have You Ever Had It Blue like for the film Absolute Beginners. Like sometime like in like 1984, like there's live like concert footage like off like them performing like the song like Have You Ever Had It Blue like in concert. Like however like the song like wasn't released like until the film came out like in 1986. Like however after like recording like that song, like the drummer like in the band, Steve White, like he was still like only like really young. Like must have been, I think he was about 17 like when he joined the Style, where like he joined at the Style Council. So like would have been sort of like about like 18 like 19 years old, sort of like my age. He wrote a new set of lyrics to this song like inspired by like the youth training schemes what were like sort of like brought in like by like the British government like off like the time to sort of like get like young people like into like work experience and that. Like however like many of like these like jobs sort of like young people sort of like done like were quite dangerous, and that like there was very sort of like limited like safety like provisions. Like I think that some people like actually like died like during like their like youth training schemes and that. So I think it is like a great like lyric what the drummer wrote to this song here, like sung very well like by like Weller and like DC Lee, like they kind of like sort of like duet like harmonise on the song. Like I think it works really well. And then then we get the song Our Favourite Shop, the title track, and like this is like an instrumental number, like a Mick Talbot like sort of like organ bass like instrumental number. What like the council like usually put on like the albums. Like for me, it is kind of like, it is just sort of like noodling like around for like about 3 minutes. However, like it feels like a lot longer than that. Like I'm afraid a little bit pointless, but like I suppose it certainly does build up like the anticipation for like what is like the closer like on like the British album. And yeah, that closing song that I'm talking about is Walls Come Tumbling Down, which I have also got the 12-inch single for here. For me, this is a true classic. Like musically, like it's so upbeat, like really like makes like you want to dance around and that. Lyrically though, like it kind of like brings together like all of like the themes expressed like on like the album. Like, I think like it's really like well written lyrically. This is the 12-inch single to the song here. This reached number 6 in the UK charts, but really should have been like a number 1 song. Like I think it's brilliant. The B-sides for this like are also like really good, like really like worth having. You get a song called Spin Drifting, which for me is one of my favourite Style Council songs. Yeah, definitely a song like worth checking out, like if like you don't know it. Then get The Whole Point number 2, which I think is like a reworked version of like The Whole Point of No Return from Cafe Blue. And then a song called Blood Sports, which is alright, like not like my favourite Style Council song there. So yeah, that's the 12-inch single to Walls Come Tumbling Down, and like yeah, just a brilliant, fantastic song, like a great way to close off the UK version of the album. However, we're not done there, because I am going to talk about the song Shout to the Top, which although it wasn't on like the UK album, like it was on like the American album, and like I think pretty much like all like CD versions like of the album, and like again for this I have got the 12-inch single. Yeah, I think this is another classic track. Like it's got like this real great sort of like soul feel like with like the strings and that. Like again, it is so danceable, so like upbeat, and like with a strong lyrical message as well. This was a single which was released I think in like October of 1984. This got to number 7 in like the UK singles charts, but like again could have done like a lot better, like I think, because it is a brilliant track. Like again, like this is the 12-inch single. We get some fantastic B-sides, The Ghost of Takurt and the Piccadilly Trail. Like that song especially like is brilliant, like I think. So yeah, that Shout to the Top, the closer on like most like international versions of the album. To the top. Okay, so overall this album would score 90%, which I think, yeah, a great score, really like worthy album, like of like getting like that score. For me, one of Weller's very best albums, and like certainly like the Style Council's peak. Like I think it's got like a great sort of like consistency like in like lyrics, and like I've read that it like tells a story like of like sort of like a young like would-be sort of like political like activist, and that sort of like seeing like all of like this like inequality like around him, and that like in songs like All Gone Away and like Come to Milton Keynes like Internationalist. However, like he sort of like suffers from like some like personal setbacks, such as like the end like of his relationship, like and like the boy who cried wolf, the death of like one of his friends, like Man of Great Promise, but then like decide to sort of like pursue like with like his activism stuff like the Lodgers, Lock, and like With Everything to Lose and that. But musically, it's a very sprawling album, like very sort of different styles and like sounds like on here. And like it's also like worth noting as well, this album is very much focused like around the core like of like Paul Weller and Mick Talbot, like on like Cafe Blue, what had like a raft like of guest stars, and like also on like the next album, The Cost of Loving, where like they became like a lot more like a conventional band, like with DC Lee like now like a full-time member, like and like Steve White like sort of like a permanent member now, whereas here like there was still sort of like flexibility like with like who like they could have playing on like the songs. And like yeah, they did kind of lose a bit of like the magic like what like they captured like on like this album. So yeah, definitely a great album. Like I don't get like why sort of like fans like of like the Jam like sometimes just say oh like the Jam were amazing, Weller's solo stuff like it's pretty good, but the Style Council are like shit. Like I don't get that, because they have some amazing songs, and like this album has plenty of them. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this review. Like I would like to know what you think of this album down below in the comments, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye. Shout, shout.